Hey, good afternoon, friends. I hope that you're doing well. My name is Patti Mason, also known as Pepperspray Patti, and I have been teaching, training, and empowering women teens for quite a few years now. We're actually on year 6, super exciting. But I want to talk about Domestic Violence Awareness Month because that's where I come from. That's where Pepperspray Patti was created. It was created out of an experience that I had in my life, and that is that I was in an abusive relationship. And when I left that relationship, things actually got worse for me. It didn't get better, it got worse. And I needed to find a way to feel safe again. And I looked to self-defense and all the different aspects of self-defense, and it is all of the different things that I learned that empowered me to take back my life and not just be a survivor, but actually be living again and maybe even living better than I was before. But it wasn't simple. It wasn't easy. So there was a lot that I felt other women needed to hear, and so that's how I started Pepperspray Patti. So we're talking about domestic violence awareness, and it is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And the question in the description, wherever it is for you, is how do you help someone that is in an abusive relationship? Now, this is a question that comes up often, and so I want to make sure that I address it. But I'm going to tell you right now, first and foremost, that domestic violence is complicated. Why? Because it's about relationships, and relationships are complicated. Anybody who says relationships are simple probably doesn't have any relationships, because I think that's the only way to make it simple, right? Is just not have any. But it's complicated. And so there is no one simple answer, just like everything else in self-defense, right? There's no one simple answer that says, hey, just give them this number and all the problems will be solved. Because every situation is a little bit different. Somebody may be in a situation where they may be safer than someone else's situation. So I'm going to give you a couple bits of information and some tools, and hopefully this will help. So first and foremost, if you find out that someone you know is in an abusive relationship, or someone comes to you and tells you that they're in an abusive relationship, the first and foremost thing that I can tell you, the best advice that I can give you is that person is very delicate and needs kindness and needs kind words. I remember there were many people in my life who responded to what was happening in my life with aggression and anger. And as someone who just had, now you gotta understand the mindset of that person that you're that you know, or that you want to help. Like for me, my ex was not an angry person. He was a very charming, wonderful person. Everybody loved him. And so when he got physically abusive, and that's when I realized the bigger picture of this whole experience that I was in, and that for the last year and a half, maybe even longer than that, that I was actually a victim that whole time and being abused and manipulated that whole time, just not physically. There's a ton of emotion. I'm hurt. I'm betrayed. I'm humiliated. I'm violated. And having all of that emotion, plus I'm in a state of complete shock because the one person in my life that I trusted so much, that I gave I made a commitment, a lifelong commitment to that person. This was, we were supposed to be this bond forever, and that person did the worst, what I thought was the worst thing they possibly could have done. Like, I'd rather you cheat on me. I'd rather you, leave me, whatever. There's other ways that you could have hurt me that weren't picking me up and throwing me to the ground and getting on top of me and beating me until I had to run. And I ran blocks to get away from this person. So there's an unreal, out of body, I can't believe this happened. And so all of these emotions that I have and I'm experiencing and I'm trying to figure out, and I open myself up to somebody and their response is, well, what do you mean you went back? Or, well, get the fuck away from that person. Like a response like that, it doesn't help. First of all, it doesn't help. It doesn't help the person. That's like, ladies, that's like a guy saying, calm down or something like that. Like, if I could calm down, I would, it's so complicated like that. And so the number one thing I would say is to approach that person with understanding of the experience that they're going through or just went through, the emotions, I'll be honest with you, pride was a big one for me. And I was completely and utterly humiliated that this happened to me. Like, I didn't see it coming, all of those things. I never expected it. I didn't think that it was something that would ever happen to me. I thought I was a stronger person. I thought that I thought I was smarter. I thought I was wiser. And so a big part of it was the humiliation to me that this happened to me. And so here I am with all of this feelings, and all of a sudden your world of trust completely comes crashing down, and there are, like, you put up walls like you wouldn't believe, and then to have the reaction that some people had, it hurt. It really hurt when someone that I went to for trust and help would show any kind of impatience or aggression. That was the last thing that I wanted. And so it pushed me away. So be kind. Be understanding to that person's situation. Regardless of what they're saying or what they're deciding to do. Like, if they decide that they have to go back to that abuser, you can't get mad at them. Because, first of all, having anger from other people, not helpful. But second of all, it's complicated and, things like that. So that's the big thing is that kindness. The second thing that I can suggest is resources. Oh my God. I reached out to a lot of people, and there were some people that were very helpful and good to me, but if someone would have put their hands on my shoulders, looked me in the eye and said, trust me, call this number and tell them you need help. Because I thought that women's shelters were women's shelters, like homeless shelters, like if you are gonna die with this person, they're it's that bad that they're gonna kill you. You gotta leave. You pack a few things and you go there, and you are living in a homeless shelter. And that's how I pictured in my head. What I didn't know is that there's other resources. I didn't know that they'll work with you even if you're still with your abuser. That there are tools and resources that can help you work through this process, to either work through if it's a situation that that you can be helped in. And I do believe that there are abusive relationships that can successfully be healed and the abuse removed. But I had no idea. I had no idea that all of these resources, and what I didn't know is through my process, there was a lot of information that I was given that was incorrect. And so because I didn't go to, the local organization, the local, family service association, I didn't know that, for example, when my abuser was arrested that night, I was told by the police officer that he was going to go to jail, or not, that night he would be, in the jail, and the next morning he would go in front of the judge, and he said he'll likely get bond and be released. And he said, but you have a temporary 72-hour restraining order, so he can't be anywhere around you for 72 hours. And I remember looking at the officer going, this is the first place he's coming when he gets out. No, 100%, no doubt in my mind. This is where he'll come, regardless of whether I'm here or not. And he will come in that door. And if I'm here, I don't know what will happen. So it wasn't that simple that I could just stay there and feel safe, and he had to go figure out where he was going to be for 72 hours. Well, come to find out, almost 4 months later, I found out, because I eventually did go looking for resources. Because I was having problems that even though I had left my abuser, he was still coming at me. He was still, the harassment and the manipulation and lies and all that other stuff was still happening. And I wanted to get away, and I didn't know how to make it stop. At this point, I'd moved, and I had moved all of my change of address to this address, but I was actually living here, so I didn't have, my mail went somewhere else. Everything was registered somewhere else, so that there would be no physical proof that I actually lived where I actually lived. So it made it harder for people to find me. I got a new vehicle didn't register it under my name, didn't, all of these things that I did, and yet he was still hounding me and still finding me. And so finally I did reach out. And then that's when the lady told me that I actually at that point still had a restraining order. And I said, what do you mean? I still have a restraining order. I didn't apply for one. And she says, no. She says, when he was arrested, you had a restraining order until he's convicted, until there's a verdict. I didn't know that whole time. And so, there's so much valuable information that they can get, from resources. No matter where you are, find out what it is. Up in Kenosha, it's Women and Children's Horizons, Lake County, Illinois. We have a Safe Place. I believe it's Turning Point in McHenry. There's some great places that you can just call and I just need to talk to someone, or what resources are out there. Find out how they can help you. You may be able to be, they have people that you can connect with. There's so many things that I don't even know of, resources that they have that could possibly be helpful. And if you don't know who your local organization is, then there is a national hotline number that you can give them and say, hey, call this, and they're gonna, then they're gonna give you your local resources and also, bigger picture wise. So number one is to be kind. They just need somebody to be kind to them and not be angry at them or frustrated with them, because no matter what, be kind. Number two, resources. Resources are so valuable. Give that person contact information. And that may be the only thing you're able to do, is just give them those resources. Hey, here's a number, call this person and tell them your situation. And these are professional people that will be able to say, okay, you're in a situation where you're in danger, we need to get you out now, or you're in a situation where we can work with you, or we're in a situation, where we can, just give you some tools, things like that. The third thing that I would say is, kind of goes with number one, but patience. How do you help somebody that's in an abusive relationship is to be patient with them. Can you right now stop what you're doing, pick up everything that you possibly can in 30 seconds and get out of where you are? Won't go where, Patti? I don't know. Can you do that? It's not that simple, right? But we expect somebody that's in an abusive relationship to do that. Remember, most abusers wait about a year to a year and a half into a relationship before they become physically abusive. And so by that time, that person is financially involved, emotionally involved, physically involved. They may be living with that person, working with that person, or working for that person, or, financially dependent on that person. Why does an abuser wait a year to a year and a half? Because they have to build the ideal situation for them to be able to get away with the physical abuse. And so think of they talk about people who have been kidnapped, and they're locked in a room for, a year and a half. Well, then gradually that person lets them out. And we've seen kidnapped victims walk into a gas station alone, purchase an item, and then get back into the car with that person. Or, they're living life, they're out and about, and we have no clue, and we're just like, why don't you leave that person? Well, again, Could you right now, in this very moment, just pick up and leave? Whatever it is that you're doing, wherever you are, whatever you have on you, that's it. Pick it up and go. Why do we expect abuse victims to do that? So give them patience. For me, in my situation, I actually went back. I was away from my abuser for a short period of time, and then I went back because I had established a home. I had my name on a lease. Everything was so connected and so tied. I needed to be able to break those ties and get out of that situation, to be able to move on. And I made the decision and felt that I was safe enough to go back. And then I put everything into place and left when it was right for me. Why doesn't the abuser ever have to leave? Why is it the victim that has to pick up and go? Because the victim is the person who's trying to save their life. They're trying to, at the same time that they're under all this pressure and all these forces, they're trying to make decisions. They're trying to figure it all out. And so kindness, resources, and patience. So how do you help someone that's in an abusive relationship? As much as I don't envy someone who finds out that a coworker or a friend or a family member is or was in an abusive relationship, pour your heart out to that victim. Give them the love, patience, and understanding. Don't get too emotionally attached to the situation, because I think that's where a lot of times people get that frustration and that anger. It's because, my God, I love you, so get the heck out of that relationship. Remember that person needs help. Needs, they have needs. And there's no instruction book, there's no training for it. And a lot of the places and people that I initially went to for help didn't know how to help me. And so at a certain point, I stopped asking. And I figured it out on my own. And I know that I have some good friendships and relationships that lasted through that. But I also know that there's a lot of relationships that I lost because of that situation. And it's not because of anything bad that person did or anything bad that I did, but just because of the circumstances. It was just a little too complicated of what I had going on, and it got in the way of a relationship with someone else because their life was complicated. And so there's so much that I could say about this, but I'm going to leave you with those three things. That if you do find that there is somebody that needs help, the best thing you can do is give them kindness, be patient with them, and direct them to the resources. And even if they say no thank you or anything like that, hey, even if it's just the phone number written on a piece of paper, if you ever need it, it's here for you. But know that the resources aren't just the extreme, because I know as a victim that's what I thought. And so encourage the resources. Encourage them to continue to reach out for help and find a solution, because nobody deserves to be in an abusive relationship. You guys have an absolutely fabulous, wonderful day. Happy Monday, and God bless you. And please, if you found anything in this video valuable, useful, truthful, or you just enjoyed it, please consider clicking on share and sharing this with your friends and family, because somebody may be looking for this information right now. Somebody may need this help. You guys have a wonderful day.